Everyone told me my brother was dead. They said the mountain took him, and that I should stop asking questions. They said no one survives inside the northern ridge, the tunnels collapse, that the air kills you before the dark does. Because on the third night, I went back to the mountain alone. Deep inside the rock, far below where any miner should reach, I saw something impossible. My brother's lantern, the same cracked glass, still burning. Lanterns don't burn for 3 days underground without oil or air. Yet my brother's lantern was still burning. That's when I realized the mountain wasn't empty and whatever lived inside it had not let my brother go. So I stepped into the crack in the stone, not knowing if I was walking toward answers or becoming the next thing the mountain would keep. It started like any other day. The sky was clear, the village was already awake, and no one expected anything to go wrong. My brother Evan adjusted the strap of his pack and smiled the way he always did when he was trying to make things feel easier than they really were. He told me he had found a crystal seam in the northern ridge. If it was real, he said, everything would change. Father was sick, work was scarce, and desperation has a way of making dangerous ideas sound reasonable. Evan promised he'd be back before sunset. He always did. He lifted his pickaxe, laughed it off, and said it would only take a day. I watched him walk toward the mountain until the path curved and he disappeared from sight. By evening, he wasn't back. By nightfall, the village began to search. They checked the familiar tunnels. They called his name until their voices echoed back empty. They found no tools, no signs of a collapse, nothing. At dawn, someone noticed a narrow crack in the northern ridge, too small for proper mining, too deep to be safe. The elders said no one would be foolish enough to go inside it. They searched a little longer, then they stopped. By the second day, the mountain was blamed. By the third day, my brother's name was spoken less and less. And that was when I understood something clearly. If I wanted answers, I wasn't going to get them by waiting. I reached the northern ridge just before sunrise. Up close, the crack looked smaller than I remembered. Not a tunnel, not a path, just a thin wound in the mountain. Cold air leaked from it, steady and unnatural. I hesitated only once. Then I stepped inside. My lantern barely touched the walls. The stone was smooth in a way rock shouldn't be, as if something had passed through it again and again. Even the sound felt wrong. My footsteps didn't echo. They were swallowed. The farther I went, the colder it became. Not the chill of depth, something sharper. The passage narrowed until my shoulders brushed the stone. I had to turn sideways. My breath fogged the air. The walls felt warm, then suddenly cold. And then without warning, the tunnel opened. The ground dropped away beneath my feet, and I stepped out into space. The lantern light spread, and kept spreading. The walls around me weren't stone anymore. Massive crystal formations rose from the floor and ceiling, glowing from within blues, greens, pale gold. The air hummed softly. This wasn't a cave. Caves don't glow. They don't hum. They don't feel alive. The crystals formed arches, pathways, terraces carved into the rock as if someone had planned and built it. This mountain wasn't hiding emptiness. It was hiding something built. Then my light shifted, just enough. The ground was covered in fine crystal dust, except for the marks, footprints. Not mine. Too small, too narrow, and they followed a path. My breath caught. I stood there, staring, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This wasn't chance. This wasn't nature. Someone or something had been walking here, often, on purpose. I took one step forward, and the crystals near me changed. The hum shifted slightly, like the cave had noticed me. I stopped. At first I thought the sounds were just echoes, but then I heard them again, clearer this time, and I stopped. It wasn't a growl or a warning. It was a voice, laughing. A warm glow appeared between the crystal pillars ahead, not harsh like firelight above ground, but soft amber, woven gently into the blue and green glow of the cave itself. I moved closer, careful, afraid the sound might disappear if I rushed it. The crystals parted, and the space beyond opened into something I wasn't prepared for. Homes were carved directly into the crystal walls, small doorways glowing from within. Fires burned low in shallow pits while figures moved between them, short, broad-shouldered, bearded. Dwarfs. Living here. Not hiding. Not afraid. Children ran past carrying crystal shards too large for their arms. A hammer struck metal on a glowing anvil, sparks dancing without sound. Others shared food, their voices blending into the steady hum of the cave. I stood still, not because fear held me anymore, but because understanding finally did. This wasn't a monster's lair. It wasn't a legend gone wrong. It was a village, a living world beneath the mountain, ancient, organized, and real. And somehow, I was standing inside it. I took one step back, just one. My heel brushed loose stone. The sound was small, sharp, too loud. The laughter stopped. The hum didn't fade. It tightened. Shadows moved. They stepped from doorways, from behind crystal walls, from paths I hadn't seen. Axes lowered, hammers resting heavy. No one rushed. Surface, a voice said, not loud, not angry, accusing. She crossed the crystal paths. She saw the fires. No one comes here without taking something. I raised my hands. The lantern shook. Words gathered too slowly in my throat. The silence pressed harder than noise ever could. Then the crowd parted. An elder stepped forward. He didn't look angry or afraid. He looked certain. Surface folk don't come here by accident. That was when I understood. I hadn't just been found. I had been caught. I followed them deeper into the mountain, past fires that burned without smoke and crystals that hummed like distant breath. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The silence felt different now, not hostile, not curious, but heavy with something unspoken. They led me into a chamber where the light changed. It wasn't warm like the village fires. It wasn't cold like the crystal halls above. It was still. In the center of the chamber, someone was suspended inside the stone. My heart stopped before my feet did. It was him, my brother. He was alive, but barely. Because when I stepped forward, just one instinctive step, the dwarves reacted instantly. A hand shot out, stopping me before I could reach him. Not roughly, carefully, as if they were afraid of what would happen if I touched him. I looked at them, confused, desperate, my voice breaking before it could fully form his name. One of them shook his head. He cannot be moved, another added. Quieter, almost regretful. The mountain is holding him. I saw it then, the way the crystals weren't piercing his skin, but growing around him, supporting him, suspending him, not trapping him, preserving him. Like a breath caught halfway in. Fear replaced relief so quickly it left me dizzy. He wasn't dying. If you want to know what really happened to Evan, and what the mountain did to him, tell me in the comments. I'll bring the next part of the story.